certainly are looking forward to it and are prepared to do something about it. But if then somehow they got the temple rebuilt in a matter of weeks because they're ready to do it, then of course a great conflict is scheduled to be underway. And then it's going to be imperative for every major country in the world, for the United Nations, for the leadership in all of the religious communities to get together and they say, now wait a minute, don't jump too quick. Everybody can have a piece of this. And in fact, that is sort of the way they're talking. Having a piece of it means that there will be one world religion, but not to worry about that either, because everybody will be allowed to worship in their own way for a while.
Now, what you're telling me here, these are things that are in the books that you're reading? Who are some of the people that are
I think that
predicting
the general idea of rebuilding of the third temple is widespread. This is well understood. There are people who say they have found the Ark of the Covenant, for example, which is the key piece of furniture in Ron Wyatt, and you can find his work on the internet. I don't know. By this time, it seems to me that this concept is so widely available and discussed that it doesn't matter who said it anymore. I think that there probably is probably one of the good writers on this subject, however, is Tom Horn and Chris Putnam. They've written a couple of books in the general area of the papacy and its concerns for the future, and they've had a book out in April a few months ago. So that would be one place to look. To give you some direction. Well, what's this got to do with deception? The deception is that someone can say, with the authority maybe to do so, there is one God, and it's me. Okay. I am the Christ come to the earth for the second time. There will be an image to worship, and it will look a whole lot like my Uncle John. Okay, and maybe at that same time, the extraterrestrials will have arrived, and they too will be saying, you see, there is now a new world order, and it means that we will take over this place in the Holy Land. So there's false Christ for sure. There is someone in the abomination of desolation who is not where they belong, and it comes with all of the authority of all the religions in the world, and it will be dead wrong.
Well, now you were talking a little bit about the church. I'm assuming the Roman Catholic Church.
The church has the Catholic Church has a deep concern in this area for a long time. They are very active. They have their own churches all over Jerusalem and the Holy Land, and they have recently signed a letter of agreement with the people in Israel to, for example, control a larger part of downtown Jerusalem. For example, seem to be taking over control of the place where Jesus had his Last Supper. Now, it doesn't bother me very much that they have that influence. Somebody has to worry about keeping it clean, and there has the right to decorum. On the other hand, it gives you some idea that long term they want to be able to, they would prefer to dictate the terms by which this is done or when this is done. So That is one of the difficulties. The problem is also that there are the U.S. government probably will also play a role in this.
How so?
All of the major countries of the world will be required to put something into this. We must guarantee peace there. When this happens, unless you want to fight 2 billion or Muslims, we better be prepared to make sure that nobody misuses what is being set up. So one of the predictions is that the U.S. government will guarantee the way this is done. They will guarantee, they'll back it up with military force, and they will default on that guarantee, and it will be a disaster. That's the prediction. So, because it was a lie backing up this deception. Again, now, does that sound unusual? No, not really. Well, lots of countries default on their agreements. And the United States is really not going to be any better, probably, than maybe the rest of the world. How will we know this to be happening as it happens? We'll know it when we hear talk about a world religion. When you hear talk about one God and we will all kneel down and worship together, then you should worry that there is a great deception headed our way. Now, am I against the idea? No, not really. You see, a lot of people would say, I'm in favor of worshiping the one God, and I wish that everybody in the world would do that. The only trouble is, since it is unlikely to happen, and since it is likely to end up in a great catastrophe, that's a good time for us all to be skeptical about the promises made and look for the lie that is underneath all this. Okay?
So let's see, if I understand you, in other words, governments are going to be there to kind of help, assuming they're telling us that they're going to basically make sure this transition goes smoothly, and that we'll be moving toward a time when we'll be talking about a world religion that everyone will be a part of. What makes that different than, say, the term, the universal church that has been made claims by the Roman Catholic Church, that they are the universal church?
You're rather ahead of me.
Okay.
Ahead of us. The kind of being about to be destroyed. And then you will know that we're getting close to a real troubled time.
Okay, Hal, hold that thought. We are getting close to the end of our second segment. Hello again, I'm Keith Dennis, for those just joining us, and I'm with Hal Meier, and we're on a program called Off the Beaten Track, and we've been discussing deceptions ahead, and we've been talking about government deceptions as part of this whole scheme of deceptions that may lead us astray in the future. So anyway, Hal, would you like to pick up where we left off?
Sure. We talked about deceptions from the religious authorities, the church, for example, and also, but now let's talk about the deceptions from the governments. One of the great enduring memories for people who study this, as I do, is the fact that at the end of his presidency, President Eisenhower, talked about that we should be aware of and careful about the military-industrial governmental complex, because he said, this group will form a government, a shadow government, a government outside of our current one, but is so strong and so powerful that it will control our own society. Now, at the time, I don't know how many people took much care about it. I can assure you that by this time, this kind of conversation is becoming widespread. There are other names given to this group of people. Some have called them the Illuminati. Some people have called them the Cabal. Some people have called them, whoever it is, the small group of families that essentially control the world. Do I believe that? Well, I have no reason. I've never seen anybody who is an Illuminati. Okay. Now, I don't know who they're talking about, but they are talking about a conspiracy of power, which includes the major banks, the major oil companies, the major pharmaceutical companies, and so forth and so on. Now, when you talk in those terms, there are a lot of people in this country and around the world who are willing to believe that there is some kind of conspiracy that's going on in this area in terms of control.
Now, Hal, if I understand you right, excuse me,
yes.
If I understand you right, are you talking about like our increasing global economy that's global and multinational corporations and
absolutely, and that it's out of control. Not even the President of the United States is allowed even to know about this, according to these people. Well, I guess by this time he knows something about it and can't do anything. Now, do I really think that this is happening? I really don't know, to tell you the truth. I don't know how, but people will have to make up their own mind about whether or not something like this is possible. If it is possible, then there is enormous opportunity also to control your life and mine. For example, suppose it were possible to know everybody's telephone conversation. Is that possible?
Well, it sounds like what we're talking about.
Sounds like I've heard about something like this. Yeah, right. What if it were possible for a group, a small number of people, to control everybody's credit, to determine whether or not you could buy a house or not? Suppose you could determine whether or not you would be able to buy food or not. Okay, because they control something like a credit card, and those kinds of issues are the ones that we're talking about. And and there are places in Scripture where they discuss control of your ability to buy and sell goods, for example. And there are there are even ways that this might be done easily. So, in the end, it's possible that the time will come when the government, in collaboration with another worldwide authority, will be able to control all of the people on Earth, including their lifespan.
Wow, that's heavy to think about.
Well, it's been said, oh no, there will never be a death panel. So I'm telling you, you have to look for the lies if you're going to find some way to protect yourself.
Well, and of course, we already know that there's a tremendous discrepancy between the third world and where they're at on the life scale and our first world industrialized areas in terms of the ability of living longer lives and having access to the medical care that would be required to have longer lifestyle.
Well, what's the key to this? The key is information. The only thing that this shadow government cannot tolerate, one of the few things that they cannot tolerate, is exposure. They cannot have people finding out what's going on. And so when you begin to see information be more and more controlled, when you can't find out what's going on, when you are told none of your business will tell you in the morning when you wake up, then you may not wake up in the morning one of these days. So it's control of information that is the key element here in this deception on the part of the government. Okay, we could go on to that from that, but let's go on to the next one. This one has to do with deceptions by, and I'm afraid I have to say it, extraterrestrials. They say, oh my gosh, what was that word? Aliens? Is that what I said? Yeah, it was. There are a lot of people who think that there are lots of aliens already gathered around us, that most of them are here to help us, and the time will come when there will have to be a disclosure. Now, until that disclosure occurs, people are dubious and skeptical, as they have a right to be. A lot of them say, well, listen, when we get that spaceship down here and it lands on the White House lawn, or some 6 other places in the world, then it'll be a good time for me to worry about it. Yeah, sort of. Because in one respect, these are going to be good people. I really think, from what I've been able to gather, that most of them are here to help us. But there will be a few who are oriented to their own intentions. They have their own attitudes, and one of them will be to find people in the world less evolved than they are, like us, who are willing to worship them.
That sounds pretty dangerous.
That sounds pretty dangerous. Well, how will they do that? Well, they come down. They're in a balloon that is, 4 miles wide and 4 miles deep and a mile and a half thick, and holds 50,000 people. And they've got 15,000 of those. And they said, listen, the world is coming to an end. Earth is on its way out. And as you can see, because by that time there will have been all kinds of difficulty and fires and volcanoes and earthquakes and one thing or another. And some people will say, and not only that, I'm ready to be taken up into heaven because I know that there's going to be a rapture. And so I'll just ascend into heaven, like it says in Thessalonians, and that'll take care of everything. And so, and by the way, where are you going in that spaceship? Well, we're going to Mars, and you will like Mars because we're going to take care of you. Okay. Don't go. Oh, because when they come down, they say, oh, my name is not Jesus, but it's Jehoshaphat or something like that. And therefore, you have every right to believe that this will be something that you should do. All right? So that is another of the deceptions that can take place when all this comes about. Now, I think this has probably less chance of actually happening because I don't know, because I think not for our own brilliance, but for the fact that there are a lot of extraterrestrials who are good, and I think will try to help us through this difficult period.